value everyone else independently, that we should ignore existing relationships, that there should be a certain level of anonymity in our relationships. So if there's on a boat, this is a rather cliche example, but if there's a boat, there's two children drowning. Saving life is saving life. It really shouldn't matter which one it is. But if one of them is your child, utilitarianism says that doesn't matter, flip a coin. Ethic of care says save your kid. Now if it's 5 kids and 1 kid, ethical care will tend to move towards utilitarianism, saying look, save 5 kids. As much as you love your one child, it's better to save 5 than 1. But ethical care was kind of developed for situations where everything else is equal, but now there's a relationship, so the relationship is important. And it's very careful to understand this does not move towards nepotism, it doesn't move towards favouring existing relationships over anything else, but it really just focuses on after the fact. Once everything else has been kind of been weighted equally, now it should be taking account of an existing relationship.
Doesn't Mill argue in utilitarianism that it might be useful in a utilitarian system to favor familial relationships or community relationships?
Generally, he does.
So I don't really see the difference, because he's saying that it would be useful in a situation where both options are equal to favor, saving your child over saving a stranger. I don't really understand how ethic of care. What sort of situation would it make it different? Knowing that Mill does argue for familial.
Because ethic of care also takes into account, say, doctors and patients, or it's more than simply familial relationships. It's also professional relationships, or even just I know this person. I don't know this person. It's more important to me to save the person I know than the person I don't. So I think the world wouldn't be a better place for their loss.
Is that, that sounds almost like it has an avoidist claim in it that's differentiating from regular utilitarianism. Like is there something subjective happening there where a mother prefers her own child? Is there some kind of theoretical justification beyond that?
Well, yeah, because first what you're saying is put the relationship out of the equation. Now is everything equal? Is there no other reason to choose except for flipping the coin? Now it's a fair position to take into account relationships. So it's not placing the relationship in a privileged position. It's saying there are no privileged positions. Once everything over again, everything is equal, and now let's look at these other positions and do we want to privilege them? So sure, it could be motivist, it could be relationship, but because it comes in after the fact rather than before the fact, I don't see it as a problem.
May I ask you, Dr. John Fisher, is he a doctor of divinity, or
She.
Oh, she. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely not.
She's got a PhD in some
Philosophy.
in philosophy. Okay.
She teaches at both the UBC and Niagara College.
I see.
Like as far as what Craig is saying, wouldn't you agree with what you're saying and just say that it is still subjective in that if you want justice, if you want autonomy, then you should not rape people?
So to make that clear, I disagree with Craig in every possible way on every single topic known to man, except maybe food preferences, because I don't know those. Craig is wrong in every possible way that he could be.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I can. So that comes back into why it's objective rather than subjective. Yeah, I didn't go into a lot of detail.
I mean, maybe not subjective, but relativistic to your goals.
Well, what does relativistic mean? Relative to your goals.
Non-absolute, I guess.
But, okay, so let's talk about hammers and nails. I mean, why do you want to put nails in the wood? Because you want to build something. Why do you want to build something? Because you need a house. Why do you need a house? Because you don't want to die. Why do you not want to die? Well, now we hit a roadblock. Right? So even things like whether or not a hammer is the best tool for a job, if you keep rolling back the reasons, you end up in, so we say, a subjective, personal decision. So let's say you have a framework surrounded by subjectivity. Right? Ultimately, if you keep going back frameworks within frameworks, you're ultimately going to hit this subjective limit of because you want to live. And there's no justification for that, right? In terms of hardness, softness, the forces of the universe, you want to live. And that doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
No, it doesn't seem reasonable to me to want justice and autonomy, but what's the ultimate justification for those?
Well,
I truly don't think Craig has any.
let me just finish
justification
on this one thing. So I'm going to say, first of all, subjective is not transitive. So just because something out here, this whole thing is subjective, does not mean that subjectivity transits all the way into things. These are objective even though they were situated in a subjective framework. And I think that's an important distinction. So if you want justice, first of all you need to define justice, and that's been an ongoing project for many centuries. A less flippant answer would be, because we want to see, generally speaking, people should not be rewarded for negative behavior. And on a purely behaviorism kind of analysis, if people are rewarded for negative behavior, for harmful behavior, they will continue to do harmful behavior. What do I mean by harmful behavior? Well, if we have a society, much like building a house, we need to say, well, what are the rules we need to have a functioning society as opposed to a dysfunctional society? And if we say, well, murder's A-okay, just you want to kill someone randomly, that's fine, it's not a problem, and people do it, people will leave the society will collapse, people will stay in houses, trade becomes impossible. So objectively, if you want a good society, a functioning society, allowing people to murder is deleterious to that effect. Much like trying to hammer a nail with a banana, it doesn't work. So that's what makes that objective. Likewise, for rape or theft, the bottom line is most, Dr. John Fisher has been a prof of mine for quite a number of classes, so I'm quoting a lot of her in this way. This isn't only, I'm not some super genius when it comes to ethics. She's an excellent teacher, and so are a lot of other profs. She'd start out with, like, if there's only two people in a society, there's only so much we can do by ourselves. If there's just me and somebody else, we decide, well, I want to build something that requires assistance, and I need somebody else to help me. If I'm worried about that person who's going to kill me or is going to take my stuff, I'm going to stay away from them. I'm not going to try and work with them on their projects. I don't want them to work with me on my projects. So the very least, for basic communal labor, for communal work, we need some sort of agreed-to framework that's going to enable these projects. So from this perspective, ethics is needed for conflict resolution. What do we do? How do we deal with a situation where we disagree? Because if we just go, well, kill him, then people just decide, well, I'm not going to work, because what if we disagree? We've no way to fix it now. For action guidance, what do I do in a situation when I see a wallet lying on the ground? I just pocket it and walk away, sweet. Or should I take it to a store, or there's police station, say, look, I found this, help it in. And finally, predictability for how do I think the rest of the citizenry in this particular society are going to act. I need to be able to know that if I put my stuff here and go out to the washroom, when I come back, it's still going to be here. And ethics is required for that. This is the job that we want ethics to do. And this is the job we want morality to do. And Craig would agree with all this. He would agree that this is the purpose of morality. We just disagree on where it comes from, the anchor point. And his distinction on ontology versus epistemology. Epistemology is how we know things, whether or not we can know something, where we get our information from. And ontology is the actual existence as a fact of the thing. So there's an ontological theory that there's coffee in front of me, and there's the epistemological theory of how I know there was coffee in front of me. Which, if you're not a philosopher, it's really boring to say. But if you are a philosopher, it's, the rest of your life will be spent asking really weird questions that nobody else cares about.
So, sorry, Craig is the theist, Christian, you say?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so she's the one saying that rape and theft is wrong.
Sorry, Craig?
Yeah, she said that?
Craig was the guy in the video. He would agree that all of those things were wrong, but he would say they're wrong because God said they're wrong.
But in the Bible, he says that they're right.
I know. So I'm not a theist, I'm an atheist. It's gibberish, it's nonsense, everything contradicts in the Bible. Whatever you want to say is good for society, you can just make up based on any two contradictory things in the Bible. If you're asking for how the Bible validates moral theory, my debate the other day wasn't on the existence of God, but my spiel was on how the Bible is not a moral system. The Bible is not a moral system at all, by any measure. It's garbage. Answer your question?